Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Sonic the Hedgehog for the Game Gear. In the last part, we got through a few more zones and now we're here in Scrap Brain. And Scrap Brain, while I'm not a fan of its Genesis incarnation, I actually kind of like this version of it, because first off, love the music. The big thing about Scrap Brain that actually makes it a lot more fun in my eyes in the Game Gear version is that a lot of the traps are actually too high up to hit Sonic, and therefore you can move a lot more quickly through it. The only ones that can really get in your way consistently are those little electric orb things that I just got past. Beyond that, there's nothing really troubling about this stage. Heck, Scrap Brain Act 1 is also absurdly short. If you start rolling here, you will basically just gain enough momentum and beat the stage from there. Because we're done. My record, I think, is like 34 seconds. I think. Now, one thing I actually forgot to mention, and it's a bit late to mention at this point, for several reasons, actually, is that obviously you've noticed that if you don't have 50 rings, when you reach a goal sign, you get an Eggman, which means you get nothing. If you have 50 or above, you get the special stage. But there's actually two more sign incarnations. There is the rare chance that you can get a Sonic signpost, which means you get an extra life. And if you have 10, 20, 30, or 40 rings upon reaching the goalpost, you'll get a ring sign, which gives you 10 more, for score purposes mostly. Either way, Scrap Brain Zone Act 2 has probably the most dickishly hidden, well, not the most dickishly hidden, one of the more annoying Chaos Emeralds in the game to find, because it's actually pretty out of the way. The thing is about Scrap Brain Act 2 is that it's more or less a maze. Mainly revolving around that fork right there. There's two paths, upper and lower, and you can't do anything on the lower one until you do some stuff on the upper one, so yeah. Now the reason I say that the Chaos Emerald's a bit mean to find in this stage is, you see these bottomless pits? They're bottomless pits. They'll kill you, as you might expect. However, this game decides to pull what Mega Man X5 would later pull with the Ultimate Armor, and allows you to fall down one of the pits in specific and not die, finding a teleporter that leads you right to the next Chaos Emerald. I don't like that design decision. It's not the worst one in the game, no, we'll see that later this part, but, I'm not a fan. Either way, the main thing we want to do is hit that switch. That's why we took the upper path of that fork. If you didn't hit that switch, the door on the left would have been closed, meaning that if you had gone through the bottom route, you wouldn't be able to progress. In fact, you just end up back in this area, probably pressing that switch, and therefore elongating the stage. So I just took this speed path, more or less. Admittedly, one thing I can say about Sonic 1 Game Gear that it actually gets a bit more right than the Genesis version, even in my eyes, is the sense of speed. Because when you start going fast in Game Gear, you actually pick up some serious momentum. Mind you, the size of the stages probably helps, but yeah, I like that. Also, you're going to want to go down all these little hills. If you jump through the little corridor, whatever that thing is, pit in the middle, I suppose, you'll eventually get to the floor that you open the door at, but you'll whiz right past it because you're going too fast, just due to gravity. So, take the long path around. It helps, trust me. And that there is why we actually wanted to hit the switch, because now we are on the other side of it. Admittedly, I do like the way this stage is designed, if the Chaos Emerald aside, so I actually really like Scrap Brain Zone Act 2. Counter-killers are here too, but thankfully, unlike the Genesis version, they're actually pretty easy enemies to take out. And that's Act 2. Obviously, it's one of the game's longer stages, clocking in about 2.5 minutes for me, obviously. But I think if you know what to do, you can complete it in probably under a minute and a half. And now we're on the Scrap Brain Act 3, which is a bit unique for an Act 3 stage, actually. Why? Well, for one, there's actually rings in it. And secondly, this is more of a maze than anything. You're going to constantly be going around trying to find which doors you can get through in order to get to the top of the stage. And this can take about maybe a minute to 2 minutes on your first playthrough, but for me, I know where to go exactly, so yay. I did always like little design elements like this, where you have a lot of paths you can choose, right, and some are only one-way doors. And this is actually one of my favorite incarnations of that kind of idea, just because there's enough ways you can go so that getting lost is actually possible. but at the same time, it's one of those ones that's also the right size that you don't get dickishly lost. There you are, Robotnik. Get back here! Where did... Oh, I'm gonna come right after you, you little... That's another thing that's kind of unique about Scrap Brain Act 3. There's no boss fight. We are instead sent right on over to the game's final zone. Which is odd, because Scrap Brain was the final area in Sonic 1 Genesis, so I'm assuming either this was just so they could expand on some ideas, or they didn't think Zone 5 was early enough to end on. Either way, welcome to Skybase Zone. And this is actually a pretty deadly area if you don't know where to go, what you're doing, rather, because first off, there's a lot of bottomless pits. And I'm not sure how the compression is showing it, but there is lightning bolts in between these gems. And obviously that hurts. It's thankfully not instant kill, but it goes off every certain amount of time, so if you want to get through without getting hit, you're gonna need some good timing skills. Also knowing where to jump, even. I will admit, Sonic 1 in the Game Gear is actually a bit of a mixed bag in terms of difficulty. It's nowhere near as maybe schizophrenic in spikes as maybe Mario 3 or something. But at times it is definitively easier, and at other times definitively harder than the Genesis game, especially when it comes to boss fights, because, you know, in the Genesis game you actually had rings for the boss fights. In this game, you got none. Also, screw that bomb enemy. Not that one in particular. In the next game we're getting to, though, oh boy. These little propeller platforms only move when you're standing on them, so make sure if you don't want to, you know, get zapped by lightning, you're constantly jumping so you don't have that happen to you. Also, on that previous one, propeller platform, you may have seen some rings on the bottom of the screen. If you actually jump down to where those rings are, there's actually an extra life. So if you need them, that's what it is, but I have like 16 at this point. I have more than enough. And that's the end of Skybase Act 1. Skybase's stages are also definitively short if you actually look at the level design. Just the fact there's a good amount in your way. And now it's time for Skybase Act 2. And there's the actual blimp that we're on now. The stupid thing about Skybase 2 is that it's where the Chaos Emerald is. And let's see. And nothing down there, right? Wrong. I don't like that. That platform doesn't show up unless you jump over there. And the only way I can think of a player finding this naturally is if they found all 5 other Chaos Emeralds, they searched all over Skybase 1 and couldn't find it, and they just got either so tired of looking or they exhausted every other option that they decided to start jumping into the pit, see if they could find anything. And that is not good design in my eyes. That could cause game overs if you're not careful. That is very stupid, and I hate that. Either way, Skybase 2, if you go the normal route, it's actually a bit of a bullet hellish area because there's a lot of cannons firing, turrets firing at you. Somewhere between 1 and 4 shots in any particular direction. I do recommend jumping when you're on these, not only so you can keep the platforms from moving so you can avoid getting hit, but also so you can see where the cannons are so you can avoid getting blindsided by them. Because the thing is about this little platform route is that it skips basically the entire stage. There's only one small section of it left after that, and there's basically only one thing that can kill me over there. But yeah, not a fan of this decision. Admittedly, if there's anything I can say about the Game Gear Sonic games, and we'll see this again with the next one I'm doing, there are some really stupidly hidden things in them. I'm looking at Chaos Emerald number 5 in the next one. That cannon's the only thing that really can kill me at this point, so I'm just being a bit careful about it. Once you're in the blimp, that's the end of the stage. Skybase 2, if you go the normal route, can be kind of annoying. If you go the Chaos Emerald route, if you find it somehow, pretty short. And with that, we're on to the final boss. I'm trying to remember how long the original Sonic 1 LP was. I don't think it was 3 parts long. It was probably like 4. Either way, as with most stages, Skybase 3 is basically just the final boss. In fact, the stage is basically just the boss. And the final boss is going to be short, so I'm going to start explaining it now. Eggman has 2 attacks. Flame pillars, which you can see right now, which alternate from the left one, the right one, then the middle one, in the exact order always. And whenever he jumps on the switch like that, he causes that spark ball to go off, which after a few seconds will try to track onto you. Thankfully, I somehow managed to glitch into his little canister. I don't think this is supposed to happen, or if it's even consistent. Either way, he's dead. Very easy boss. Should not have much trouble with it. What are you... Oh, you dick. If you did get the Chaos Emeralds, the ending actually ends there, but since we did, we get one extra little bit thanks to these nice little baubles. And it's not really worth it at all, I'll tell you that in advance. And we cleared the pollution out of South Island, I guess. Yeah, that's all you get for getting the Chaos Emeralds, which is one of the main reasons I'll say right now, I rarely ever go for them. It's not really worth going for them. The only thing you really get out of it is score, as you can see. And score is only really good as bragging rights, and even I think there's ways you can max out your score if you know what to do, so it's pretty pointless. Also, the score takes a while to count down for some reason. But yeah, that's Sonic 1 on the Game Gear. How is it? Well, I'll be honest, I actually enjoy it more than Sonic 1 on the Genesis. I have reasons for that, though. First off, Sonic 1, a big issue that a lot of people have is that it's not very consistent in speed. You go from Green Hill to Marble Zone, then you don't really get speed again until Starlight. Sonic 1 on the Game Gear, there's actually fairly consistent speed, so I like it for that. The stage design isn't as interesting as the Genesis version, I'll give it that, but honestly, if I'm gonna play Sonic 1, I actually go back to this one. The soundtrack as well is actually a bit of an interesting thing, because I love the Genesis soundtrack, but the Game Gear soundtrack is just really kick-ass. Also, speaking of the soundtrack, not this section right here, obviously because this is Green Hill, but the main melody for the credits theme would actually later be remixed into Sonic Unleashed's Daytime Missouri theme. Stage theme, not the, town theme. Either way, if you want to play Sonic 1 on the Game Gear, you actually have a good amount of ports you can access. It's on the Master System, it's on the Game Gear, it's on the Virtual Console for both the Wii and 3DS, and I think probably even Wii U at this point. I might be wrong about that, though. And it's also available technically on the GameCube through, I think, both Sonic Adventure DX as an unlockable and one of the collections, Mega Collection Plus, I believe. But I think that was PS2 and Xbox only, so maybe just PS2 and Xbox on that. Either way, like I said before, though, this is a bit of a Game Gear-a-thon, and next up in my little Game Gear marathon is, if you can't tell by release dates, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Oh boy. So look forward to that. But with that was kind of redundant, I'm going to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for Game Gear. See you guys then.